Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 81 of Fierce Honest Hearts. I am Heidi Ferguson, and my co-host is Fereshta Ramsey, and we have a very special guest this evening today, and that is Joanne Louis-Paul. And I'm going to start with a check-in. And my check-in is that I was on the screen a lot today, and that tends to just kind of exhaust me, whether or not I'm speaking or whatnot. I just find that having the Zoom app open, I find it just to be, I don't know, there's an energetic thing with me that happens. I'm like, God, I'm so tired. So anyway, I had some time to lay down, and so I did, and I set my alarm for 45 minutes, and I didn't need 45. I woke myself up at 30. It just woke up, and I was like, oh God, I feel really refreshed. And you know how sometimes that happens, we're like, oh, it's not enough. And sometimes 30 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever, like a little cat nap is just enough. So I'm feeling revived and excited to be here with these two wonderful, beautiful women. And yeah, I think that's my check-in for now. I'm sure I'll have more to share later, but that's kind of where I am in the moment. Are you ready to go, Fereshta, or Joanne, do you wanna check in and let us know where you are in life and just kind of, yeah, what's happening?
Yeah, thank you. I'm checking in, feeling a little like harried or like I had today has been a back day, for the most part with like a little bit of break in between, but um I was out of town for the weekend, and though it was great, it kind of like throws off whatever like rhythm I've been in, So Monday I really couldn't do anything at all, which is generally the case after a trip. Like I need the day after to just totally decompress. And so I did that on Monday, but I feel like I'm still like not caught up, and like Friday is now my new catch up day, which I'm excited about, but I have like this thing that I'm doing in Jersey City at 4. So it's not fully like the kind of open day that I really would want to look forward to be like, I'm just gonna like catch up on all my to-do lists, kind of a thing. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling, but I'm feeling happy to be here and excited, and yeah, a little tired in my body, a little tight in my body. And yeah, it's my check-in.
Thank you both for those wonderful shares. Heidi, I'm hearing for you, like I can sense your vivaciousness because you took a nap. And I knew from doing tech earlier and texting you that you were taking a nap. So it all makes sense, like the self-care and how that's having you show up feels really sweet. Reminds me that my self-care gives that to other people. So thank you for that beautiful download. And then Joanne, yeah, I know that place of, oh, my whole groove is a little like, I don't know, got squished, and coming back from that. And I also hear some yearning in your Fridays. Like there's a sweet yearning in there around it being. Did I get dropped out a little?
Yeah, for a second
Oh,
there.
you froze
Okay.
for a second there, yeah.
It might be my Wi-Fi. I might switch during another person's share. And I guess my share coming into that is coming back from a vacation a couple weeks ago now, but the lessons of it are continuing to permeate my world around less screen time, more creativity, more playtime, including in my business. And this place of like, how much more can I reveal? And how much more can I show up? Because getting those few days to just be a mermaid with my best friend, right? Like just being like, I'm living in my bathing suit now for the next 5 days. and I want to tell every entrepreneur, take a freaking break, because I was like in those weeds behind you, Joanne. I couldn't see anything but like, oh crap, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do that. And stepping away let me have like the 30,000 feet view. Like, why am I doing this? Why does this matter? Uh, who do I want to serve? Why do I give this much of a shit about this? What's the like, why? What's the fun? Okay, I am going to switch my Wi-Fi. And without that, everything would have just been doing. And now it's like, I don't know, turbocharged, excited. The part of me that loves being creative is now allowed to play. It's a big shift. It's quiet, but it's kind of seismic. It's my share. And I will be switching Wi-Fi if you see me freeze one last time.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'm really relating with the taking a moment for oneself, especially for those of us who are in business for ourselves, and how we can kind of get on this, I want to say, fast track train, if you will, where we're just going and going and going and going, because there is lots to do when you work for yourself, and you have to market, and you have to continue to make yourself visible, et cetera, and all the other things. And so I'm really appreciating the reminder to step back, to really slow down, and to look at your life from a different perspective. Just that piece alone can really, I want to say, raise the bar in a sense, right? Like the awareness around that, and just the things that we can learn from looking at ourselves from a different perspective, and how that can be a game changer. And because when we're caught, I will say, when I'm caught up in the busyness of it, I really can't see much beyond what's in front of me, because I'm working on a project, I'm putting a lot of time into it, et cetera. And I'm like, wow, and then I'm spent, and I don't have much energy for anything else except a nap. And then like, that's where my energy is, right? And y'all know I love a nap. However, yeah, it would be nice to really have a break and step back and not do anything. It's so important. So thank you for that. I'm really getting it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's like a journey I'm walking, and it's something I say to clients, particularly those that go, from corporate burnout to like figuring out what's a better balance for them. It's like you got to get out of your natural habitat, and you got to get away from all the normal things you got to do, and leave some space and stillness and silence for that really quiet voice that's underneath all the frenetic energy. And that takes time, and that takes like truly gifting yourself with a retreat. And that could just be across county lines, right? Like I'm not saying like you got to go to Kupalu. I'm just saying like there's got to be a way to connect with yourself.
Sure.
And Joanne, I'm curious for you, I'm thinking about like leaving your natural habitat to try something else, and knowing you've, done that recently. Curious what lands for you in all of this.
Oh man, I mean, this is making me think of my Sabbath, right? That I've carved out for myself, which is every Saturday, just a day of just absolutely no responsibility. And, it could be a day where I can lose my phone and it's fine because no one's expecting me to be anywhere, and that kind of a thing. And I'm just realizing I keep being reminded of how important that is when I don't get it. Like a few weeks ago, I didn't get my Sabbath on a Saturday. It was like a lot of socializing and being outside, which, both, in the sun, the hazy sun, both like zapped me of my energy. So I felt it, and my body forced me into a weekend on like Tuesday, Wednesday, which was really like disruptive to like the workflow that I'm trying to do. And also part of that is having Fridays as like a no meeting day, having that be a day where I know I can just ease into the day, and get a bunch of stuff done, a bunch of solo work done, you know, like all the administrative stuff, you know, speaking about all the different things you have to do when you run your own business and all the different checklists, which is fun when I make the space to do that, you know, but I'm learning how sensitive I am to like disruption in my rhythm. It's like, I'm like a little cranky baby. Like I didn't get my nap, you know, you know, so, but it's cool. It forces me to like slow down and learn myself more, which is really cool. So that's why I like what's resonating with me is like getting a different perspective on life and also having that space for play or for nothingness to just disconnect and, you know, recharge, you know. So all of that is good stuff.
Yeah. I'm so deeply appreciating that you have carved out a day, like, you know, this day there's nothing on my calendar. I am a free agent, if you will, I'm a free agent for myself, right? And if we don't put that on the calendar, oftentimes we forget about it, because that day is just as important as all the other days where we have things on our calendar, work things on our calendar. Yeah, so for those who are listening, I want to encourage you, you know, whether or not you're an entrepreneur or not, but take some time for yourself, because that's really important. That's how we regenerate. That's how we re-energize. That's how we intentionally get back to ourselves. And that's, you know, in a sense that it might sound dramatic, but I'm like, that's a lifeline for me. It's really a lifeline. So anyway, so I wanted to ask Joanne, so Fereshta was telling me that you're a musician, and that's all she said. She didn't say what type, which is completely okay. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, is she a singer? Does she write music? Does she play? Actually, you did tell me, you said she plays the bass, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So then I'm going, okay, so is she in an orchestra? Is she in a trio? Does she play at different venues? Just like
speak all of this into existence. Yes.
Okay.
Keep going, Heidi. Keep guessing. Keep guessing. I'm adding it to the list.
Is she a soloist?
She's on a world tour.
Does she know Sting? Right? Like he's on my bucket list and I've seen him and he's lovely. Anyway, yeah, so I'm just curious, you know, and you say you were away over the weekend. I'm like, oh, was that a work weekend? Like, was she travel? Was she touring? Anyway, so yeah, I'm really genuinely curious.
My favorite is, does she know Sting? Like, it's so random.
No, it's not random. And why isn't it random? Because he plays the bass. You know, he plays the bass.
Yeah.
There we go. That's the
connection. It's as good as done now, Heidi. You said it. So it's pretty much like he and I are best friends.
I love that. I love that.
Oh gosh. No, I was at the Newport Jazz Festival in Rhode Island this past weekend. So it was like, this is my 6th time going, you know, in a row. And I have my whole thing down pat, you know, I get right up to the front and I just like take in. It was like a really great weekend of just taking in so much inspiration, like, you know, watching every bassist and just kind of like being able to envision myself in that space, but also like just learning, you know. So it's like I don't know, it's like every year that I go, I enjoy it in a different way, like in a slightly deeper level, the more that I, you know, play my bass and like continue to form my relationship with it. And it's so great. I'm hearing all of these lines in my head, but I'm not I can't reproduce them the way that I hear them just yet, you know. But it's like it was a really nice weekend of inspiration, but also just very tiring, just the, you know, being outside and walking back and forth from the parking lot to like the venue, and then just being around all those people. Like we kind of mentioned this yesterday, Fereshta, was like being around so many people is also like an energy zapper, you know. So it's like I was taking in, but then it was like almost like too much, like sensory overload at one point. And but it was great. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. So yeah, I'm hoping all those things. And what's funny is like one of the people that I saw who I didn't know anything about her. She's a sax player from London, Nubia Garcia, and she was great. And her story was that she was in the audience at this festival like 10 years ago, and she's like, and now I'm on stage and I can't believe it. And all of this different stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's really cool. It's like I feel like every time I walk away from seeing like really, I don't know, high level musicianship, it's like it's attainable. It just needs to be a priority, and then there's just the time to let it unfold. But it's like that's where the inspiration is. It's not that it's so aspirational, like, but it's like, no, it's possible, but I got to do my part, kind of a thing. So it's like, yeah, I'm excited. Loved it.
So you were there as a guest or a performer or both?
No, I was just there in the audience enjoying. Yeah. And yeah, it was great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
Are you so you're training? How long have you been playing since you were a child? Did you start with the cello or the violin I'm just curious about your background, like your launch into where you are now.
Yeah.
And then did you study like how far did you go to study music? Did you go to college and study music? Did you I'm really, I don't know any personally, I don't know any musicians.
Yeah. Got your singer-songwriter over here.
Enough said.
Yeah. So too. Now too. No, yeah, I started playing when I was 9. I was playing the violin. It was like a new offering at the elementary school that I was at, and that was 4th grade. And then they didn't bring the program back in the 5th grade, and then I switched schools in the 6th grade. And I also, I don't know if try out is the word. I think there were like a bunch of kids who showed up wanting to be in orchestra, and they were like, okay, we can only have so many of each instrument or whatever the case may be. And maybe it was some kind of like a lottery or something like that. But, I got picked to be in the orchestra. And so I played from 6th grade through my senior year of high school. But then I stopped, and then I picked it up again in adulthood, and it was like a lot harder. I don't know why. I would like to get back to it at some point, but it was like a lot harder than I expected. I felt like I spent most of the time just like learning how to balance the bow. And so I was like, I want to keep playing an instrument that has 4 strings, but is like a bit easier and less technically, which isn't true. Like it's all the like technique matters or whatever, but like with the violin, if you don't do it right, it sounds like a cat dying. There's no in between with it. Whereas like with bass, they're like, the frets are clearly marked, and as long as you tune your instrument, it's pretty easy to start to have fun with it and do things with it. And so that was like 5 years ago, and have taken lessons from a couple of really great people. And I was in a few bands. I was in a reggae band, 2 reggae bands, and a classic rock cover band last year. And I just had too much going on. Like I was still in my first year of like working for myself, and like I felt like my calendar was like crushing me. And I don't know, it was just too hard. It was too hard. So I was like, something's got to go. And the music isn't making money right now. So I gotta cut it. And I'm happy that I did it, even though it was sad, because now I have all this room for play, kind of like what you were saying, Fereshta, like having that like intentional time to just be creative. And for me, when there are like responsibilities of being in a band and gigging and rehearsing and learning the set list and just playing that over and over again, like it's not the same muscle as my creative side, I guess. So it's like I want just, again, that free agent. I've been saying that actually for the last couple of weeks, like, yeah, I'm a free agent, you know what I mean? Just jam with people and and see what happens, and put myself in scary situations, and get used to all of that. So yeah, it's like I'm excited for where I'm at right now. And I've been practicing every day, which is really, really nice, and it's fun. It doesn't feel like a chore, which has been the problem in the past. So yeah, and I sing too. but I haven't really done anything with that lately. So that's me.
I love knowing all of this about you. I have some parallels in my own world, but I had no idea you played violin, and you have played in an orchestra, even if it was right elementary school or middle school, whatever. Like
Right.
that idea of knowing what that feels like feels really exciting to me, because that's very different than the solo artist path.
Right.
And yeah, just that this much of your life has had that kind of determination, and what I think of is like decades of craft, right? Just coming together.
Mm.
Really cool. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I was like, oh my God, we got stuff to talk about. What?
Right.
Because I too started with violin, right? Elementary school, and then middle school didn't even offer it, as I had moved elsewhere. So I switched to guitar, and then did years of guitar, and I just didn't care for anything I had to like deal with. I don't know. It was just like whether it was this or this, I was just like, none of this is working for me. And I never really considered, as odd as it sounds, that being a voice person is like that the voice is an instrument. I always thought it's like, well, if I'm gonna sing, but I've got to have this instrument, until I had a musician friend look at me and go, voice is an instrument. Like you might have already gotten your instrument, right?
And it's the tougher one, I feel like, because it's organic. Like it's literally your vocal cords, and like so many things can affect
so
the
much.
voice,
Yeah, so much is revealed with the voice, right? So it's hard not to feel naked with it. And something you shared about just like taking in other musicians of the same, because I know when I go to a concert, yes, there's like me fangirling and enjoying the concert, and there's me really listening to the vocalist and just being like, what are they doing? What's going on there? Or a cool move with the mic, like mic technique, or something that just added to the show and created a moment, and being like, got it, right? I can't turn that place off anymore.
Yeah.
The way it was off when I was just a music lover.
Right.
Now that part of me is tracking any vocalist I see.
Yeah.
So I really relate to that. Yeah.
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 I love that, because you start to like hear what's different about each person, and what's unique, and the things that like, and that helps so much with enjoying their style and what makes you like them. It's not just the technique, but it's their voice. That's really what it is, right? It's like music is just another way to express yourself. It's it's a language, and it's cool when you start to hear like, oh, like this is his voice, like he's saying what is he saying there? And that's like, I don't know, it's cool.
Yeah. And I think artists can really be a download and a transmission to others, right? So I'm curious on either end, Heidi, like on the musical end of being musical, or on the end of loving music. How do you experience like art as it relates to music?
Well, so I played, I guess you would say, classical piano for 10 years. When we were little, after we moved back to the States, we had this really lovely music teacher in our elementary school, public elementary school. And first, I mean, I know that it has, there's a connection here to my father, because he played multiple instruments. His father played multiple, like they were just very musically inclined. And so Miss Jorgensen was her name. And I was in 4th grade, and we were learning to play the recorder. Did y'all play the recorder? Like that was right, okay. And we were learning to read music. I mean, it was real basic, like what's quarter note, what's a half note, right? And reading music was so easy for me. It just became very easy for me. Sorry about the siren. And then my sister and I, we begged, like literally begged my parents for a piano. We got one, and the caveat was that we had to take lessons. We couldn't quit. We had to practice at 30 minutes a day, no questions asked. Even if you're on your deathbed, that's not true. And then the four of us, my siblings and I, then also took on another instrument. So I played the flute. My oldest sister played my grandfather's clarinet. My brother played my grandfather's cornet, which is like a trumpet, a little bit smaller. And then my youngest sister played the saxophone. So, and my parents really invested money in, because we all four had private piano and private instrumental lessons every week. So I didn't realize until I was much older, like I didn't know how much piano lessons cost and instrument. I just kind of was living my life, and I was like, wow, that was on the salary and the money that they were making, which was very little. Like I did not grow up with a lot of money. That was a sacrifice that my parents made for us. And I feel so, I mean, I feel grateful to the point where I almost feel indebted, because I know the sacrifice that they both made, to let us, to really want us to love music. So anyway, and then, I sang some choral. I did more choral, I would say, in church choir. Like as I got older, I sang with the community choir. And I do love, especially like depending on the setting, like the what's the word? There's a word that I'm looking for. It'll come to me. But anyway, like in a cathedral, right? Just the sound that voices can create without instruments, without a pipe organ, nothing. Just the voices that can create that kind of a sound is really incredible and can literally bring me to my knees. It's so, I don't even know that I have the words for it. Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, I'm really taking that in from a place of both what you shared about recognizing your parents' sacrifice, right? Because that stuff was not cheap. And it just helps me feel more appreciation for my parents, who had to hear violin, as you said, Joanne. Not it's either great or it's terrible, right? And it takes a lot to get to great. And the cost of that, and gratitude that even though that wasn't the instrument I eventually, like, that they let me go through. Maybe it's, the farfisa. Oh, maybe it's the violin. Maybe it's the guitar. Let me have that journey, because without it, I wouldn't have known so clearly that I compose at the piano, but I pretty much, I can't see it now, but, I'll shake something, tambourine or a shaker. That works for me percussively. But that they let me do that, and they didn't, like, I don't know, they didn't shame me or get upset when I wanted to change what I was exploring. Right? They weren't bad, like they weren't mean about it. They were just like, oh, okay, let's try that, And then the second piece, because I have a love of voices in churches and cathedrals. I just love that you said that, because I think Bocelli did an Easter concert in a cathedral during the pandemic. So it was literally just him and the pianist. And then Tori Amos does a lot of, especially her backing tracks in churches, because of the sound it creates. And the first show I played in New York City when I moved here like 8 years ago was the Providence in downtown Columbus Circle. And it used to be a recording studio because of the sound. It was like 3 floors or something. Like Guns N' Roses did Appetite there, and these other bands, like, just the stuff on the walls was like, holy cow, these people have been here. But even more interesting to me was, prior to it becoming a recording studio, it was a church. And the reason it even became a recording studio was because the church needed money and would rent it out for recordings, because it was such a gorgeous sounding room. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason that's true is because there was a lot of prayers in that place too, right? Like, it all comes around, like that ground was sacred, and of course the building was made to sound well. But for people, particularly for artists to flock, it's got to be more than the sound. It's got to be the feel too.
Yeah.
So just thinking of how, like, I was like, I don't even need to be mic'd in here. How gorgeous is this chamber? Which makes me want to go back. Now that I know you sing a little and you sing a little, I'm like, wait a minute. Let's meet up at a church.
Yeah, let's sing. Sing these walls down.
We might have lost Joanne for a second.
I
Do you
think
have her frozen too, a little bit?
yeah, she's frozen on my end.
Heidi, what do you love to sing, or do you still sing?
So I haven't sang in, I'm gonna say at least 10 years. It's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy singing choral music. So what kind of choral music are you asking? I would say anything where I hope we can get her back.
I know, I just put in the chat that she's frozen. She might have to drop out and come back.
Okay. I love when voices can come together,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and build on one another. I mean, 4-part, 6-part, 8-part, whatever. And then just create this gorgeous kind of swell, if you will, you know. And singing, you know, either singing with either a cappella or not. I love when we're tuning our first note, our first few notes with voices and instruments. There's something about that. I find it a very sacred I find that a very sacred thing that's happening, and it gives me chills. Like, I just love it so much. Yeah, because to me, that feeling of everyone, like, we all have our parts, everyone's coming together to create this beautiful, gorgeous piece of art that people are hearing. Like, they're seeing us sing is one thing, but hearing it with their ears in whatever way they're hearing it is so special. Is so special. So anyway, that's hi, welcome back. We're glad you got back.
You made it.
Made it back. Sorry, guys. Yeah,
Okay.
my Wi-Fi off, so I'm on my hotspot now. So hopefully, we'll be good.
Yeah, Heidi was just sharing her love of choral music and what she likes to sing, to listen to. I don't know if you sing along too.
Sometimes I sing along. Yeah. And I heard this, it's kind of a statistic, I guess. So especially, and I think you two will appreciate it being singers. So we are aware as singers of the work that, like, the physicality that goes into singing, right? And the breath work and everything. And I learned, I guess it was my last choral choir director was telling us that a singer uses as much lung capacity as a football player does in a game. And I'm like, what? But then, interestingly enough, like, as I was going through that rehearsal, I was like, yeah, I can understand how that could be true, because we are constantly, like, taking a deep breath or taking a shot, whatever, for a certain kind of sound to come out, right? Like, it's not easy. There's a lot of mental work, physical work, balancing going on to make the right sound, to make, you know, I was like, yeah, that makes sense to me. So anyway, for those who are listening and love music and all the things, I just wanted to share that. Joanna, did we lose you again? You're still here. Okay.
No, I'm here actually.
Okay. You're really still, and I'm like,
yeah, I'm really listening.
Thank you for listening so intently.
Yeah, of course. I really like what you're saying, because I think with I don't know, hearing the voice and just the voice, like a cappella groups and things like that, it's just, it's so, I don't know. Like, obviously, all music is beautiful and ways of expressing it, different instruments like resonate with different people. But I don't know, it's like we all have a voice. Not to say that we all know necessarily like what to do with it. Like, even, the things that you were saying, Heidi, it's like, well, I'm not like a singer. Like, I'm not like, I didn't like grow up singing like in groups or like in school or, I never really had any formal training with it. But it's like the little bit that I have tried to incorporate. I'm like, wow, this is really difficult to keep up with. There are a lot of things you have to take into consideration, and all those different tweaks. Your diet can affect it, and how much acid is in your stomach. It's like it's so, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love it. So it's like when I see people doing it so well, I just admire it. So I'm like, wow, you sound like a bell. You like clear as a bell like that. And I know that doesn't, it looks effortless, but then about all the time behind it to practice and all the experience you have to have so that you could just, express and make it seem like, oh, like it's no big deal, just singing.
Right.
It's like, no, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it looks deceptively easy, right? And I think any expert in any field, we just watched a baseball game the other day, and it's like they make hitting 103-mile-per-hour ball look easy, right? And hit a home run and run around and all the things. And it's like, yeah, no, that is years, if not decades, of dedication for some of them. And I love this too, this place of like the craft of it, right? Because yes, there's the mechanics, there's like what you got to do technically, and then there's how connected are you to spirit or source or yourself to be able to emote so clearly. How much have you learned yourself, right? To be able to then transmit that to others. And then one of my favorite places when I do voice work with people is what have you been afraid to say? What's still in there? Like what's still there? Because sometimes people are sitting on a lot of their power underneath their voice. And I think it's why I love, we can come in through shadow work, we can come in through relationship coaching, but sometimes we can come in through voice and get to the same place, right? Like the journey is to your true voice, right? Your authentic voice, no matter what. And that I'm always honored to be a part of, which is someone utilizing voice as a way to find themselves in all the static. Did we lose her again? Yes. Okay. I just looked up. Okay. There you are.
Am I back? Okay.
You're back.
So sorry. This never happens. My laptop is embarrassing me in front of my friends. Sorry. I'm so sorry. And I was really enjoying what you were saying too.
Well, you'll get it on the replay too, but I just to headline just love, love this conversation around like sometimes we could be sitting on our power with our voice. Because I can hear it in people's voices. Sometimes I'm like, oh, there's more there. And it's sort of for whatever reason. So I was just saying that's my favorite part of voice work is like, yes, mechanics, yes, lyrics, yes, technical. And then like, what are you holding back?
Yeah.
Because I can't just do it all normal. I want to get in there.
Really deep, yeah. I might have to have a couple of sessions with you. Yeah. Because I'm like, there's something there and I don't know why I can't just like, so yes, what you're saying is very important.
My vocal coach, she said 3 things to me I'll never forget over the years. She said, risk more emotionally in what you're writing. What are you afraid and what are you not saying? And gosh, I don't know, I can't remember the 3rd thing, but it was like one of those things where you're like, oh, like you're sitting on your power here. There's something more here than what you're getting at, like back to the drawing board. And that was really hard. It was like, oh my God, I have to be more naked. This already feels naked, right? This already feels like I got nothing on. You're telling me there's another layer to this.
Yeah.
And I remember in one of the songs I'll share just to give an example, hopefully it's practical, is we came to the bridge and, the whole song was about conflict. And the line I had put in was like, show me how to love you. And she's like, too safe. Nope. What do you really want to say at this part of conflict in the bridge at the crescendo, right? And it was like, oh, we're so close. I'm terrified. And she's like, there you go. But the other thing I would have let myself get away with, because it was less vulnerable. Oh, just we're in a fight. Just tell me how to love you. Versus like, oh, this is intimacy. This is terrifying. So that actually is how I do songwriting and voice now, is like, what is it, right? What's the real thing?
Yeah.
Authentically relating.
Yeah.
Authentically relating, 100%. It's interesting because as you were talking about that and you said that line, I was like, yeah, I'm doing that. I'm doing it. Doing it. Yeah, I'm really doing it. And those reps, scare the crap out of me, right? Like really scare me so deeply. And the more reps I do, the easier it gets, the lighter it gets. And the more confidence I have with the next person. And I'm learning that in this relationship that I've had for my entire life. And I'm like, okay, just one more Band-Aid, Heidi, just rip off one more Band-Aid, keep going, keep doing it, keep asking the questions, stay curious, stay open. And with those little, intricate reminders, mental reminders, what I realize is happening is that as I'm doing it, as I'm showing up in this way, energetically, the person across from me is matching in her own way, in her best way, is matching. And I'm like, okay, all right, this is good. This is good for me to see and experience. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that kind of outcome or whatever. And I don't necessarily have an expectation, but I'm like, okay, all right, we can do this.
Yeah.
So, and I realize I'm taking a breath and I'm like, wow. And so, yeah, so we're going to just pivot a little bit. I think this is a great place to do it and talk about this course, because we're doing it. Like we want people to feel confident in their relationships and to know themselves in ways that they hadn't really thought about before, so that they can show up more confident and differently in their relationships. And Fereshta and I are going to be teaching and giving you skills and opportunity to practice these skills, because this is what we've done in our relationship. This is how we've done our relationship. And fortunately, we haven't had, many crunchy moments, but we've had moments where we're like, okay, I'm just going to dive in. I'm going to own my stuff. It looks ugly. I don't like myself in this moment, even though it was maybe a nanosecond. I want to apologize. I want to own it, and just so that we can move through. I feel like I've lost my track, but anyway, that's, I think this is important in the world. I really do. And I feel so passionate about it. And because, I've heard some people say, not necessarily directly to me, but through passing or whatever, or secondhand, well, I really messed up and I don't know how to fix it. It's over. And I'm like, it might not really be over. It probably isn't really over So if you can find the courage within yourself, because it takes a lot of courage, a lot of vulnerability, and a lot of knowing oneself, and apologize if there's an apology to be given in a very sincere way. I'm going to encourage whoever needs to do that. And then if there needs to be a further conversation about what happened so that there can be repair, because without repair, an apology is only going to get you so far. But in the repair, is where the love and the trust is rebuilt and even stronger. And I would say, you know, for Fereshta and I, we've honed this skill in a way that works for us. And I believe that we are both stronger for it because we really want this. And we want this for anyone else who wants it for themselves.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thanks, Heidi.
Yeah.
I just want to add to that, given, you know, the relationship coaching work I do, that the number one reason I don't think relationships work is because we don't validate each other's experience, validate each other's feelings. We're often in the defensive, which I get. Listen, the scared animal comes up and we just want to defend ourselves, right? But every breakup that I see, the one thing that's missing is that level of empathy to go, oh, babe, like I'm so not just sorry, but I don't want you to feel that way with me. I will do what I can to change that behavior. I imagine that hurt you or scared you or, you know, didn't feel good to you. Like that, the leaning in with empathy and genuine empathy, right? Not technique, but like real, like if I step into your shoes, knowing your history, knowing your tender spots, and you're telling me I just poked one of those spots, how would you want to be loved, right? It sounds so simple as I say this out loud, but it is the hardest thing to do for our nervous systems, because when we feel attacked, our natural built-in wiring is to self-protect, right? Or to prepare to fight. And the work in a great extent is how to take care of your nervous system and how to take care of the other person's nervous system. If you're truly a team and you want life to work, right? You and I, Heidi, when we've had crunchy moments, there's always the play of just defending myself. But that wouldn't really be relational towards you, right? So to not validate someone's feelings and their experience, even if you don't agree with it, right? Like you might not agree with the details or what happened, you can still tend to someone's feelings and how they experienced it, right? So that's my biggest little tip here is tend to the feelings. Forget about the details. Forget about, was it 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock? People get very litigious here, right? No, I told you 5:30. No, I told you 6. And it's like, everybody shut the fuck up and rush in to soothe each other, because everything else is a waste of energy. Arguing about the past and the memory, and no one's got a good memory under stress. So it's like, just drop it all and tend to each other's feelings. But that requires training of the nervous system so that you can hold yourself and you can hold the other person, and you can hopefully, instead of dysregulating each other, you co-regulate each other. So that's why I'm so passionate about this, because I want people to just have a little more harmony and a little more peace, and I think a little more safety in this world. It's already cuckoo. So if we could create more safety and love with each other, we might have a fighting chance.
Yeah, I wanted to add a little bit to that. So, you know, when you talked about how it is hard because it's hard, I think too, and I'm making an assumption, but I remember before I started doing any of my personal work, I really didn't have much vocabulary when it came to feelings. And I would say a lot of people probably don't have much of a vocabulary when it comes to feelings. We talk about being hurt. We talk about being sad, happy, joyful, angry. and we're like, are there only 5 feelings? There are a lot more than 5 feelings. And so one of the things that I did, and I still have it as a reference when I need it, because I'm like, no, I'm not angry to like a 10. I feel more frustrated or I'm aggravated, like that takes down the scale a little bit. And so there are such things as, I think they're called feeling charts, something like that. And it gives you a whole array of words describing different kinds of feelings. And so if there's a place that you want to start and you want to become more familiar with these words, I would say Google a feelings chart and pull that up and print it out for yourself so that you can have a reference at, whenever you need it. And I think most of us really need that, because we don't have that language, and we're trying to express something. We're like, oh my God, I don't know what to say. And people say, I don't know what to say because they don't have the words for it. I get that. And so I want to encourage you to find a way, meaning if it's a feelings chart, work with Fereshta and I. Our course is starting a week from today. Yay! Find me here. And we're so excited, and we'll pop a link into the YouTube. It also is on Facebook, and we're all, so yeah, wherever else you can find us. I'm not sure I have anything else to add. I would be I'm not sure.
No, that sounds great. I'm just curious, Joanne, too, for you. I know you've done some, of our authentic relating kind of, the energy, and you've also, you've been with me long enough. We've been friends too long enough. What's landing for you around relationships and maybe the skills that are necessary that maybe you didn't even know were necessary before?
I mean, I just love, everything that you're saying, because I'm someone who in my adulthood did not have the vocabulary to express the full range of the emotions that I felt. And through like an accountability group that I was a part of, we had to do daily check-ins, and we had to check in with our feelings. So even just doing that really started to make like a big difference. And so it's like when you brought that up, Heidi, about how it's like, yeah, a lot of people can't express what they need or how they're feeling because they literally just don't know what to say. Like, I understand that, and like, even like through the work that I do with you, Fereshta, it's like, and it's something I'd like to incorporate more, but the connection between the body and the feelings, like feelings have actual, like that's why they're called feelings. I didn't realize, I learned that like last year, which is like an epiphany last year, like, oh, that's why they're called feelings, because you feel them in your body too, and it's like so that means that there are these real things that you can track. And in keeping with like just the whole theme about like learning about ourselves more, like how it's important to continue to discover yourself and your boundaries and things like that. And it's also interesting to kind of see like, where do I hold anxiety? Where do I hold sadness or depression, or, because it's might be a little bit different for people. So it's like, I love the work that you guys do, because I really do, like, I know I know that if everybody had this information, the world would be like a lot, a much better place. It's like simple, it's almost sad how simple the solution is, but it's just not available to everyone. And also, just because we are feeling creatures, you get scared, if someone's trying to help you, like you don't know, because they need to get really close in, and you don't know if you can trust them that close to your eye, like, or whatever, and so it's like, I commend you guys for the work that you do, because it's not easy, but it's like something that everybody needs,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
being a heart warrior. And it isn't for the faint of heart, but man, running your whole life not knowing this sounds way scarier to me personally. And I will say this, in the breakups and divorces and relationships I see fall apart, the biggest culprit is one partner not thinking they have anything to learn.
Say that again. Is one partner not
willing, like not taking in that they have something to learn, willing to learn.
right?
And if you don't have two willing partners, forget it. And I think it's the saddest thing I've seen, because that relationship didn't have to fall apart, but someone's ego, pride, narcissism, whatever it was, right? I don't even know, that said, I don't have anything to learn. I know it all. And yet their relationship's falling apart. So it's like, but you don't know it all, because look at, it's evidenced by, like, to me, I'm like, it's clear you have some things to learn. I'm seeing something that's falling apart. But I think, yeah, the worst thing I see is someone who takes no personal responsibility for their part in a relationship.
Right.
So we want to see the heart warriors who, even if, you think it's 99% your partner's fault, show up for your side of the street, even if it's 1%, because it will make a difference. It will make a difference in what you're transmitting, and it could shift a dynamic without the other person even, having to be a part of it. So that's my spiel. I think it's important. I am fucking like fired up about it, because yeah, it's the relationship education none of us ever got. So I'm a little pissed about that. And that's where I want to reach as many people as possible, because you don't have to do it like walking blind through the forest. Like, we train for everything else in our, you want to get off the couch and do a 5K, you train. So if you want epic, juicy, thriving, transformative, soulful, safe relationships, you got to train for them. Mm.
God, I love this stuff so much. It's where my heart is. My Care Bear heart just like is, reverberating. Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
All righty.
Chat pack
question. Okay.
Happening. I'm scared.
It's actually easy. Oh, I mean, I don't know. Which of the 50 states would you be happiest to move to if you had to? I'm going to say Montana. And I don't, I don't really, I know why, because when I think of, I've been to Montana, but literally like drove through it. So I think of like, big open sky, mountains, huge green evergreen, like huge evergreen, just these huge trees and beautiful blue sky. And just, I think of wide open spaces. When I think of Montana, I'm like, gosh, I want to build a house there. Like I want to, wouldn't it be just nice to be with not be around people? Oh my gosh. Anyway, and a stream, like a stream of water. Oh, that would be lovely. I would love that. Anyway, that's mine.
Give Heidi her stream and her alone time, and she is good.
For sure.
naps by the stream.
That's my stream.
What about you, Joanne? Did something come to mind for you?
Oof, well, you were talking about blue skies and everything. I started to think California, but really I think Martha's Vineyard off of Massachusetts. If I could go back and forth between like mainly living on the island, but then having access to the inland part or whatever you want to call it. But that's, I don't know, because I guess I really do love like the Four Seasons. And I really just love New England, like the homes and the foliage and just the vibe, and near the coast anywhere. So yeah, that would be my pick. I'd be okay with that, I think.
I love both of those. Both of those actually came to mind for me, but at first I thought, does Puerto Rico count? Because I was just like,
let's say continental.
No, right. And as I spent a lot of time in Southern California. I have a deep love for that area, but I left there because I loved New York. So if I had to just like pick one, I think Hawaii. Yeah. Because this idea of being near volcanoes, being near like lava and waterfalls and jungles and a culture that's not so American, like I just feel like it would be such a feast for my senses. And I think every state here has some incredible beauty, but I was thinking, gosh, which one do I know the least about? And would feel completely dropped off into like, got to discover and explore energy. So for me, that would be Hawaii. Being like, I just don't know anything, but like we could walk up to a volcano and then we could go swim in a waterfall. And obviously, it's not going to be every day, but there's something I gel with when I have clients and friends from like Maui and stuff where I'm like, I could totally enjoy that lifestyle, surfer, beachy, moo-moos, all of it, barefoot.
Thank you. Oh, I love that. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all. Thank you, Joanne, for being with us today. I so love having you here, your presence, your energy, all of it, your stories, your sharing your experience. It was just lovely. Those of you who watched us live, thank you for being with us. We appreciate your willingness to stick in and hang in with us and watch us. And I'm going to say until next time.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you all.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.